The entire city watched the trial that placed two siblings on opposite sides of a billionaire empire. While the sister moved everyone with her charisma, the brother was portrayed as a cold and ambitious villain. But everything changed when a poor girl entered the courtroom with an envelope in her hands and the truth in her eyes. If you were touched by this beautiful story of resilience and love, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Continuing, San Francisco's fog rolled over Pacific Heights, shrouding the Victorian mansions in a mystical haze that seemed fitting for the spectacle unfolding within the city's courthouse. For weeks, the entire Bay Area had been captivated by what the press called the Maxwell Inheritance War. Every newspaper, television channel, and social media platform buzzed with speculation about which sibling deserved to control the $5 billion empire left behind by Eleanor Maxwell, the recently departed matriarch of one of California's most prestigious families. Eleanor had built Maxwell Technologies from nothing, transforming it from a small software startup in the 1980s into a global tech giant. Her passing had left a gaping hole not only in the tech industry, but also in the philanthropic community, where her generous donations had supported countless causes across the West Coast. Inside Courtroom 7, the air was thick with tension as Olivia Maxwell Bennett dabbed at her perfectly made-up eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. At 42, Olivia exuded the polished charisma that had made her a darling of San Francisco's elite social circles. Her designer suit complemented her auburn hair, styled in soft waves that framed her face. When she spoke, her voice carried just the right amount of emotion to elicit sympathy, without seeming theatrical. "My mother was everything to me," Olivia testified, her voice breaking at precisely the right moment. "While Thomas was always away, consumed by his own pursuits, I was there by her side. Every doctor's appointment, every holiday, every moment she needed someone, I was there." The jury members nodded sympathetically. Several reporters scribbled furiously in their notepads. On social media, our Team Olivia was trending. Seated at the adjacent table, Thomas Maxwell maintained his stoic demeanor. At 45, he had his mother's intense blue eyes and reserved nature. His tailored suit couldn't hide his discomfort at being the center of attention. Unlike his sister, Thomas had always shunned the spotlight, preferring to work behind the scenes. This tendency toward privacy had now become his greatest liability in the court of public opinion. Thomas's lawyer, Harrison Brooks, a veteran of corporate litigation, leaned over to whisper something in his client's ear. Thomas nodded slightly, but continued staring straight ahead, his expression unreadable. Judge Howard Williams, known for his no-nonsense approach, adjusted his glasses. "Ms. Bennett, please continue." Olivia straightened, composing herself with practiced grace. "When my mother's health began to decline, I moved back to San Francisco. I put my own life on hold because she needed me. Meanwhile, my brother remained in New York, barely calling, rarely visiting. And now he wants to take control of everything she built, everything she would have wanted me to protect." From the gallery, whispers of approval rippled through the spectators. Public sentiment heavily favored Olivia. Her Instagram posts showing tender moments with Eleanor had garnered thousands of sympathetic comments. Her tearful interviews on morning shows had painted the picture of a devoted daughter fighting against a cold, calculating brother. When it was Thomas's turn to speak, the atmosphere shifted noticeably. The warmth extended to Olivia cooled instantly. Thomas approached the stand with measured steps, the weight of public disapproval heavy on his shoulders. "Mr. Maxwell," his lawyer began, "could you please describe your relationship with your mother?" Thomas cleared his throat. "My mother and I understood each other. We weren't demonstrative people, but we respected each other deeply. Our relationship was built on objection." Olivia's attorney, Victoria Lang, rose sharply. "The witness is speculating about the deceased's feelings." "Sustained," Judge Williams ruled. "Mr. Maxwell, please stick to factual statements about your own actions and observations." This pattern continued throughout Thomas's testimony. Each time he attempted to explain the nature of his relationship with Eleanor, he was interrupted, challenged, or dismissed. The narrative had already been established. Olivia was the loving daughter, Thomas the absent son who now wanted to claim what he hadn't earned. In the back of the courtroom, Rebecca Porter, Eleanor's longtime executive assistant, watched with growing unease. She knew things about the Maxwell family dynamics that contradicted the simplistic narrative being presented, but her loyalty to Eleanor kept her silent. Eleanor had always valued privacy above all else, especially regarding family matters. Outside the courtroom, the media circus continued. Financial analysts debated the future of Maxwell Technologies under either sibling's leadership. Technology blogs speculated about potential changes to the company's direction. Gossip columns delved into Olivia's 3 marriages and Thomas's intensely private personal life. Miles away from the courthouse, in the Mission District, 12-year-old Lily Rodriguez walked home from school, though oblivious to the drama unfolding among San Francisco's elite. Her worn backpack hung heavily on her thin shoulders as she navigated the familiar streets to the small apartment she shared with her grandmother. Rosa, "Abuela, I'm home," Lily called out, dropping her backpack by the door. Rosa looked up from the kitchen table where she was sorting through bills. "How was school, mija?" "It was okay," Lily shrugged, heading to the refrigerator. "Mrs. Thompson says I need to bring $20 for the field trip next week." Rosa's face fell slightly. $20? "I'll see what I can do, querida." Lily noticed her grandmother's expression and quickly added, "It's not that important. Maybe I can help you clean some houses this weekend." Rosa had worked as a housekeeper for wealthy families in Pacific Heights for decades. Recently, arthritis had made it difficult for her to maintain her full schedule, but she still cleaned for a few long-time clients. "Actually," Rosa said, brightening slightly, "Mrs. Patel asked if you could help sort through some donations for the community center on Saturday. She said she'd pay you $15. Lily nodded eagerly. "That would be great." What neither Lily nor Rosa knew was that their lives were about to intersect with the Maxwell family drama in ways they could never have imagined. The trajectory of Lily's life and the outcome of the inheritance battle would soon be dramatically altered by a series of unexpected events. That evening, as the sun set over San Francisco Bay, Thomas stood at the window of his hotel suite, staring at the Golden Gate Bridge in the distance. His phone buzzed with a message from Rebecca Porter. "There's something you should know. Can we meet tomorrow, privately?" Thomas texted back a simple yes, unaware that this conversation would be the first domino in a chain of revelations that would turn the entire case upside down. Across town, in her Pacific Heights mansion, Olivia sipped champagne as she reviewed strategy with her attorney. "Tomorrow we bring in the family doctor to testify about how often I was there during her illness. The jury will eat it up." Victoria Lang nodded approvingly. "Your brother doesn't stand a chance. The public already sees him as the villain in this story." Olivia smiled, her confidence unwavering. "As they should. I've worked too hard to lose now." What Olivia didn't realize was that the carefully constructed narrative she had created was built on shifting sand. And somewhere in the city, hidden away from prying eyes, was a truth that would shatter the illusions she had so painstakingly crafted. As night fell over San Francisco, the pieces of this complex puzzle remained scattered. But soon they would begin to come together, revealing a picture far different from what anyone expected. Chapter 2: Hidden Truths. The morning light filtered through the blinds of Thomas Maxwell's hotel room as he prepared for another day in court. The weight of public perception pressed down on him like a physical burden. He straightened his tie, a gift from his mother on his 40th birthday, a memory that brought both comfort and pain. The knock on his door came precisely at 7. Rebecca Porter stood in the hallway, clutching a leather portfolio to her chest. At 58, she carried herself with the quiet dignity of someone who had witnessed decades of corporate power plays and family dramas without becoming cynical. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, stepping inside. Her normally composed demeanor seemed fractured today, hints of anxiety breaking through her professional facade. "Of course," Thomas gestured toward the sitting area. "What's this about, Rebecca?" She placed the portfolio on the coffee table but didn't open it. "I've been struggling with this decision, Thomas. Your mother valued loyalty above all else, and I've served the Maxwell family for 27 years. "I know," Thomas said quietly. "She trusted you completely." Rebecca nodded, her hands fidgeting with the edge of the portfolio. "What's happening in that courtroom? It's not right. The story being told isn't the true one." Thomas's expression remained controlled, but a flicker of hope crossed his eyes. "Go on. Your sister's narrative about being the devoted daughter while you were the absent son, it's a fabrication." Rebecca finally opened the portfolio, revealing a stack of documents. Eleanor kept meticulous records of everything, including all financial transfers to family members. Thomas leaned forward, examining the papers. His eyes widened as he saw years of transaction records, substantial monthly payments to Olivia, dating back 15 years, far larger than any normal family support would warrant. "I had no idea," he murmured, paging through the documents. "These amounts?" Eleanor supported Olivia through 3 divorces, numerous failed business ventures and extravagant spending habits, Rebecca explained. "Meanwhile, you were the one ensuring Maxwell Technologies remained profitable enough to sustain this lifestyle for everyone." Thomas ran a hand through his hair, processing this revelation. "Why didn't Mother ever tell me?" "She didn't want to burden you with Olivia's problems. She hoped that eventually Olivia would find her purpose." Rebecca hesitated before adding, "There's more." In the months before her passing, Eleanor expressed concerns that Olivia was manipulating her, suddenly showing interest in the company, in Eleanor's philanthropy work, areas she'd never cared about before. Thomas's jaw tightened. "And I suppose that coincided with Mother updating her estate plans." Rebecca nodded solemnly. "Eleanor was no fool, Thomas. She recognized the pattern, but she still loved Olivia and wanted to provide for her, just not at the expense of the company she built." "These documents," Thomas said, indicating the portfolio, "can they be used in court?" "That's the problem. These are copies of Eleanor's personal records. The originals, along with her final testament, were kept in a safe in her bedroom. But when I went to retrieve them after her funeral, they were gone." Rebecca's voice broke slightly. "I believe Olivia took them." Thomas closed his eyes briefly, absorbing this blow. "So we have copies, but without the originals. They could be challenged as fabrications," Rebecca finished. "I've been searching discreetly, but I haven't found where she might have hidden them." The weight of this information settled over the room. Thomas stood and walked to the window, looking out at the fog-shrouded city. "Thank you, Rebecca. I know this couldn't have been an easy decision. Eleanor valued truth even when it was difficult. I'm just trying to honor that." She rose to leave. "I should go. Olivia doesn't know I'm here, and I'd prefer to keep it that way for now." After Rebecca left, Thomas called his attorney, Harrison Brooks. "We need to meet before court. There's been a development." Meanwhile, across the city in the Mission District, Lily Rodriguez was preparing for her Saturday job at the community center. As she tied her sneakers, her grandmother entered the small bedroom they shared. "Lily, before you go, could you drop off this package at the Maxwell house? Mrs. Bennett asked me to deliver these papers, but my knee is acting up today." Lily took the padded envelope. "The Maxwell house. Isn't that where that rich lady lived? The one they're talking about on the news?" Rosa nodded. "I cleaned for Mrs. Maxwell for almost 20 years. Such a kind woman, so different from her daughter." She shook her head disapprovingly. "Now that Mrs. Maxwell is gone, Miss Olivia wants me to pack up some things. These are documents she needs for the court case." Lily's eyes widened with curiosity. "You know the people from the news?" "This city is smaller than you think, Mika. Rich or poor, our lives touch in ways we don't always see." Rosa's expression turned serious. "The house will be empty. Use the service entrance key under the stone frog, leave the package on the kitchen counter, and lock up when you leave. Don't wander around, it's not our place." Lily nodded, slipping the package into her backpack. "I won't, Abuela. Promise." The bus ride to Pacific Heights took Lily through neighborhoods that felt like different worlds. From the vibrant murals of the Mission to the manicured perfection of one of San Francisco's wealthiest enclaves, the contrast was stark. As she approached the imposing Maxwell mansion, Lily felt a mixture of awe and intimidation. The house stood behind wrought-iron gates, its Victorian architecture both beautiful and forbidding. Lily found the side path that led to the service entrance, located the stone frog her grandmother had mentioned, and retrieved the key. The kitchen was immense and spotless, with gleaming marble countertops and professional-grade appliances. Lily placed the package on the island as instructed, but as she turned to leave, a framed photograph caught her eye. It showed an elegant older woman, presumably Eleanor Maxwell, standing beside a man who looked like the brother from the news stories. They were both smiling slightly, their resemblance unmistakable. Curiosity overcame caution. Lily found herself wandering through the quiet house, footsteps echoing on hardwood floors. The grandeur of the place was overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers, antique furniture, artwork that probably cost more than her grandmother would earn in a lifetime. She reached the main staircase and hesitated, knowing she should leave. But something drew her upward, a combination of fascination and an inexplicable feeling that she was meant to be there. The second-floor hallway was lined with closed doors. One stood slightly ajar, a bedroom that clearly belonged to the lady of the house. Lily pushed the door open wider and stepped inside, immediately feeling like an intruder but unable to resist. The room was exactly as Eleanor had left it. Perfume bottles arranged on a vanity, books stacked on a bedside table, a cashmere throw draped across the foot of the bed. Photos in silver frames documented a life of accomplishment. Eleanor receiving awards, cutting ribbons at charity events, standing proudly with her children at their graduations. Lily moved around the room respectfully, careful not to disturb anything. As she approached the massive cherrywood wardrobe against the wall, she noticed something odd, a slight gap between the furniture and the wall, with what looked like the edge of a panel visible. Heart racing, Lily squeezed into the narrow space and pushed against the panel. It gave way slightly. She pushed harder, and suddenly a section of the wall swung inward, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a small safe with an old-fashioned key lock. Lily stared in amazement. This was exactly like something from the mystery novels she loved. She examined the safe closely, not expecting to find a way in, but then noticed a small wooden box on the floor of the compartment. Inside the box, wrapped in an embroidered handkerchief, was an antique brass key. With trembling hands, Lily inserted the key into the safe. The mechanism turned with a satisfying click, and the door swung open. Inside was a thick envelope sealed with an official-looking stamp, along with several handwritten letters bound with a silk ribbon. Lily pulled out the envelope, recognizing the word testament printed across the front. She knew enough to understand she was holding something important, something that could change the course of the inheritance battle playing out in the courthouse downtown. As she stood there, clutching the document, a chill ran through her. This wasn't just about rich people and their money anymore. This was about truth and justice, concepts that even a 12-year-old from the Mission District understood profoundly. At that same moment, in the courthouse, Olivia was delivering another masterful performance. "My mother confided in me during those final months," she said tearfully. She expressed regret that Thomas had been so distant, so focused on his own career that he couldn't make time for his family. Thomas watched his sister, the revelation from Rebecca's documents burning in his mind. He knew now that Olivia's relationship with their mother had been built on financial dependence and manipulation, not the devoted care she portrayed. Harrison Brooks passed Thomas a note. "Without hard evidence, we can't counter her narrative effectively." As Thomas read the note, he felt a strange sensation, as if something important was happening that would change everything. He couldn't have known that at that very moment. A young girl in his mother's bedroom was holding the key to his vindication in her hands. Chapter 3. The Turning Point. Lily Rodriguez sat cross-legged on Eleanor Maxwell's bedroom floor, the sealed testament in her lap. The gravity of her discovery slowly sank in. This wasn't like finding treasure in one of her adventure books. This was real life with real consequences. She carefully examined the envelope, noting the official notary seal and the elegant handwriting that labeled it "Last Will and Testament of Eleanor, Catherine Maxwell, I." Noise from downstairs startled her. Footsteps, someone had entered the house, and "Hello? Is anyone here?" a woman's voice called out. Panic surged through Lily. She quickly returned the letters to the safe but kept the sealed testament clutched to her chest. There was no time to close the hidden compartment or the wardrobe panel. She slipped the key into her pocket and ducked behind the bedroom door just as the footsteps reached the top of the stairs. Rebecca Porter paused in the hallway, sensing something amiss. "That's strange," she murmured to herself. "I could have sworn I locked the service entrance." She entered Eleanor's bedroom cautiously, her eyes immediately drawn to the exposed hidden compartment. "Oh no," she whispered, hurrying to the open safe. Lily held her breath, pressed against the wall behind the door. Rebecca was so focused on the safe that she hadn't noticed the girl's presence. As Rebecca knelt to examine the safe's contents, Lily saw her chance. She darted from behind the door and ran past the startled woman, Testament clutched tightly against her chest. "Wait!" "Stop!" Rebecca called, but Lily was already racing down the stairs, heart pounding in her ears. She burst through the service entrance and ran down the street, not stopping until she had put several blocks between herself and the Maxwell mansion. Ducking into a small park, she collapsed onto a bench, breathing hard, the sealed envelope still in her grip. "What do I do now?" she whispered to herself, staring at the document. She knew she should call her grandmother, but something held her back. Rosa would insist they return the envelope immediately, would worry about legal trouble, about losing her housekeeping clients. But Lily had seen enough of the news coverage to understand that this document might be important, might right a wrong that was playing out in the courthouse. She pulled out her phone and searched for news about the Maxwell inheritance case. The latest headlines showed photos from that morning's proceedings. According to the reports, the trial was expected to conclude early next week. Lily's finger hovered over her grandmother's contact information before she made a decision. She would go to the courthouse herself. Meanwhile, Rebecca Porter was frantically calling Thomas Maxwell. "Someone was in the house," she explained urgently. "The hidden safe, it was open. A young girl ran off with what looked like your mother's testament." Thomas gripped his phone tighter. "A child? What are you talking about, Rebecca?" "I don't know who she was. Hispanic, maybe 12 or 13. She was hiding in Eleanor's room when I arrived." "The safe was already open." Rebecca paced the bedroom. "I came back to check one more time for the original documents, and now they're gone." "Call the police," Thomas instructed. "Report a break-in. And tell them what? That a child stole a document that could change the outcome of a high-profile inheritance case. One that I claimed didn't exist when Olivia's lawyers asked during deposition." Rebecca's voice was strained. If Olivia finds out I knew about the hidden safe, Thomas understood the implications. Rebecca's career, her reputation, everything would be at risk. "All right, don't call the police yet. Let me think." Back in the courtroom, Olivia was preparing for her afternoon testimony, reviewing notes with Victoria Lang. "Thomas's legal team seems desperate," Olivia observed smugly. "Did you see their faces during the doctor's testimony this morning?" Victoria nodded. "We're in an excellent position. The judge clearly sympathizes with your side of the story. And the jury is eating up every emotional moment." Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from her assistant. The housekeeper's package was delivered to the house. She smiled, tucking her phone away. Everything's falling into place. What Olivia didn't know was that the sealed envelope containing Eleanor's true testament was now in the hands of a determined 12-year-old who was making her way downtown on a bus, trying to figure out how to get into the courthouse. Lily arrived at the imposing building. Intimidated by its marble columns and security guards, she approached the main entrance, where a line of people waited to pass through metal detectors. Her security officer eyed her suspiciously. "Are you lost, young lady?" he asked. Lily swallowed hard. "No, sir. I need to get inside. It's important." "You can't enter without an adult, and there are no public tours today," he explained. "The Maxwell trial has the building on restricted access." Lily felt her heart sink. She hadn't considered this obstacle. She stepped aside, watching as attorneys and journalists flashed credentials to gain entry. The envelope seemed to grow heavier in her backpack. As she debated what to do next, a kind voice spoke beside her. "You look like you could use some help." Lily turned to see an elderly man with bright eyes and a press badge hanging around his neck. Martin Schaefer had been covering San Francisco's legal beat for the Chronicle for over 40 years. "I need to get inside," Lily explained hesitantly. "It's about the Maxwell case." "I have something important." Martin studied her face, his journalistic instinct sensing a story. "Important how?" Lily lowered her voice. "I found papers in Mrs. Maxwell's house. Important papers that the court should see." Martin's eyebrows shot up. "That's a serious claim. How did you come to have these papers?" Lily briefly explained her connection to the Maxwell household through her grandmother and how she had discovered the hidden safe. She was careful not to reveal that she had essentially taken the testament without permission. Martin considered the situation. In his long career, he'd developed an instinct for when something significant was unfolding. "What's your name?" "Lily Rodriguez." "Well, Lily Rodriguez, I think we should get you inside." He gestured toward the security checkpoint. "Stay with me and let me do the talking." Using his press credentials and a well-established rapport with the courthouse staff, Martin managed to get Lily through security. As they rode the elevator to the courtroom floor, he asked, "Have you looked at these papers?" Lily shook her head. "Not really, but I know it's a testament. It has a seal and everything?" Martin nodded thoughtfully. "If what you found is genuine, it could change everything about this case. Are you ready for that?" The elevator doors opened, and Lily stepped into the bustling hallway, suddenly overwhelmed by the reality of what she was doing. Reporters huddled in groups, lawyers conferred in hushed tones, and court officers maintained order with stern expressions. "I just want to do the right thing," she said finally. Martin placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "That's more than many adults in this building can say. Come on." Inside Courtroom 7, the afternoon session was about to begin. Judge Williams adjusted his robes as the gallery settled. Thomas sat stoically at the defense table, while Olivia chatted animatedly with her legal team across the aisle. Martin led Lily to a seat in the back row, whispering, "Wait here. When there's a break in the proceedings, we'll approach the judge." The court officer called the room to order, and Judge Williams addressed the attorneys. "Ms. Lang, you may call your next witness." Victoria Lang stood. "The plaintiff calls Dr. Margaret Chen, Eleanor Maxwell's personal physician." As Dr. Chen was sworn in, Lily fidgeted nervously in her seat. The document in her backpack felt like it was burning a hole through the fabric. Martin noticed her anxiety and whispered, "Patience. The right moment will come." Dr. Chen's testimony painted Olivia as a devoted daughter who attended every medical appointment, who knew her mother's medication schedule by heart, who spent nights at the hospital during critical periods. "And Mr. Maxwell?" Victoria Lang asked. "Was he present during these medical crises?" Dr. Chen hesitated, glancing briefly at Thomas. "I recall seeing him only a handful of times during Mrs. Maxwell's illness." From his seat, Thomas clenched his jaw. What Dr. Chen couldn't know, was that Eleanor had explicitly asked him to focus on keeping the company stable during her illness. "The business can't afford for both of us to be distracted," she had told him. "Olivia can handle the doctors. You handle Maxwell Technologies." As Dr. Chen's testimony continued, the courtroom door opened quietly, and Rebecca Porter slipped in, scanning the gallery, until she spotted Thomas. Their eyes met briefly, and she gave a small nod indicating she had news to share. The testimony concluded, and Judge Williams called for a 15-minute recess. The courtroom began to empty as attorneys and spectators filed out for a break. Martin turned to Lily. "Now's our chance. Follow me." He led her toward the front of the courtroom, where Judge Williams was reviewing notes at the bench. Thomas had moved to a corner where he was speaking intently with Rebecca Porter, their conversation too quiet for anyone else to hear. "Your Honor," Martin called, approaching the bench. "I apologize for the interruption, but there's a matter of urgent importance regarding this case." Judge Williams looked up, recognizing the veteran reporter. "Mr. Schaefer, this is highly irregular. If you have information pertinent to this case, there are proper channels. With respect, Your Honor, this young lady has discovered what appears to be Eleanor Maxwell's sealed testament, a document that could significantly impact these proceedings." The judge's attention shifted to Lily, who stood nervously clutching her backpack. "Young lady, is this true?" Across the courtroom, the conversation between Thomas and Rebecca halted abruptly. They both turned toward the bench, eyes widening as they recognized Lily. "That's her," Rebecca whispered to Thomas. "That's the girl from the house." At the same moment, Olivia returned from the hallway, stopping short when she saw the scene unfolding. Her eyes narrowed as she took in the young girl, the reporter, and the judge's interested expression. "What's going on here?" she demanded, striding forward. Judge Williams held up a hand. "Ms. Bennett, please take your seat. We appear to have a development in the case." He turned back to Lily. "What is your name, young lady?" "Lily Rodriguez, Your Honor." Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "And Mr. Schaefer says you have found a document relevant to these proceedings." Lily nodded, finding her courage. She opened her backpack and carefully removed the sealed envelope. "I found this in Mrs. Maxwell's bedroom, in a hidden safe behind her wardrobe. I think it's important." A murmur rippled through the remaining spectators. Judge Williams extended his hand. "May I see it, please?" As Lily handed over the envelope, Olivia's face drained of color. Victoria Lang immediately moved to her client's side, whispering urgently in her ear. Judge Williams examined the seal and handwriting carefully. "This appears to be an original legal document. Court is adjourned until tomorrow morning, while this document is authenticated. All parties are ordered to return at 9 a.m. He banged his gavel decisively. As court officers began clearing the room, Thomas approached Lily cautiously. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice thick with emotion. Lily looked up at him, seeing not the cold businessman portrayed in the media, but a tired man fighting for the truth. "I just found it," she said. "I didn't know what else to do." Across the room, Olivia watched the exchange, her face hardening into a mask of barely controlled fury. Whatever happened next, the carefully constructed narrative she had built was in serious jeopardy. And the person responsible was a young girl nobody had anticipated, a wild card that not even the most expensive legal team could have predicted. Chapter 4. Revelations. The morning fog hadn't yet lifted from San Francisco Bay when crowds began gathering outside the courthouse. News of the mysterious testament had leaked to the press, and overnight, Lily Rodriguez had become the subject of intense speculation. Who was this girl? How had she found a document that could potentially change the outcome of the city's most high-profile inheritance case? Inside a small conference room at the courthouse, Lily sat nervously between her grandmother Rosa and a court-appointed child advocate. Rosa had been horrified when she learned what had happened. Her initial anger at Lily for entering restricted areas of the Maxwell house quickly giving way to anxiety about potential legal consequences. "We could lose everything," Rosa had whispered the night before as they sat in their tiny kitchen. "My job, our apartment. But this morning," as they waited to speak with Judge Williams in chambers, Martin Schaefer had appeared with reassuring news. "The testament has been verified as authentic," the journalist told them. Eleanor Maxwell's personal attorney confirmed the signature and the notary seal. "Whatever happens next, Lily, you've helped bring the truth to light." Rosa squeezed her granddaughter's hand tightly. "Will there be trouble for her? For taking the document?" Martin shook his head. "The judge seems to view her actions as those of a good Samaritan, not a thief. But he does need to speak with her about how she found it." The door opened, and a court officer appeared. "Judge Williams will see you now." In the judge's chambers, the atmosphere was less formal than the courtroom. Judge Williams sat behind his desk, his robes replaced by a sweater and collared shirt. He smiled kindly at Lily. "Miss Rodriguez, thank you for coming in this morning. I just need to ask you a few questions about how you came to find Mrs. Maxwell's testament." Lily explained everything: her grandmother's housekeeping job, the errand to deliver the package, her curiosity about the house, and the discovery of the hidden compartment. "And you didn't break anything to access the safe?" The judge confirmed. "No, sir. The key was right there in a box. It seemed, I don't know, like it was meant to be found." Judge Williams nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes the truth has a way of emerging when it's needed most." He turned to Rosa. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I want to assure you that your granddaughter is not in any trouble. In fact, her actions have prevented what might have been a serious miscarriage of justice." Relief washed over Rosa's face. "Thank you, Your Honor." "Now," the judge continued, "I believe everyone is assembled in the courtroom. It's time to disclose the contents of the testament." The main courtroom was packed to capacity. Journalists filled the gallery, sketch artists captured the scene, and court officers maintained strict control over the proceedings. At the plaintiff's table, Olivia sat rigid with tension, her usual poise replaced by barely concealed anxiety. Victoria Lang whispered constantly in her ear, but Olivia's eyes remained fixed on the judge's bench. Across the aisle, Thomas appeared calmer than he had in weeks. Harrison Brooks reviewed notes beside him, occasionally pointing out sections that caused Thomas to nod slightly. At precisely 9 a.m., Judge Williams entered and called the court to order. "Before we proceed, I want to address the circumstances surrounding the discovery of Eleanor Maxwell's testament," he began. "After careful examination, the court has verified the document's authenticity. It was properly executed, witnessed and notarized 6 months before Mrs. Maxwell's passing. He paused, scanning the courtroom. I have also determined that Lily Rodriguez, who discovered this document, acted without malicious intent and will face no legal consequences for bringing it to the court's attention. A murmur of approval rippled through the gallery. Martin Schaefer, seated in the press section, gave Lily an encouraging smile. She sat with her grandmother in a special section reserved for witnesses, feeling both relieved and overwhelmed by the attention. Judge Williams adjusted his glasses. I will now read the relevant portions of Eleanor Maxwell's last will and testament. The courtroom fell silent as he began to read. I, Eleanor Catherine Maxwell, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament, revoking all previous wills and codicils. To my daughter, Olivia Maxwell Bennett, I bequeath 40% of my estate, including my personal properties and investments as detailed in Schedule A. To my son, Thomas Maxwell, I bequeath 60% of my estate, including controlling interest in Maxwell Technologies and associated business entities as detailed in Schedule B. Gasps and whispers erupted throughout the courtroom. Judge Williams raised his hand for silence before continuing. In addition, I hereby appoint Thomas Maxwell as CEO of Maxwell Technologies and Chairman of the Board of Directors, positions to be held for a minimum of 5 years following my passing, after which the board may vote on leadership as per company bylaws. Olivia's face had turned ashen. Victoria Lang scribbled furiously on a legal pad, already formulating objections. Thomas remained still, his expression a mixture of vindication and profound sadness. Judge Williams cleared his throat. There is a personal letter attached to the testament that Mrs. Maxwell requested be read in open court in the event of a dispute between her children. I will now read this letter. He unfolded a separate sheet of paper covered in Eleanor's elegant handwriting. My dear children, if this letter is being read, it means that the fears I harbored in my final months have come to pass. It pains me deeply to think of you fighting over what I've built, but I have prepared for this possibility. Olivia, my daughter, you have been blessed with charm and social grace that I never possessed. You've lived a life of privilege that Thomas helped make possible. Yes, helped make possible. What you may not know, what I've protected you from knowing, is that for the past 15 years, it has been your brother who ensured Maxwell Technologies remained successful enough to support our family's lifestyle, including the significant financial assistance you've received through 3 divorces and numerous personal crises. While you portrayed yourself as my caretaker during my illness, the truth is that your visits were sporadic at best, often coinciding with requests for additional funds or access to my social connections. I love you dearly, but I cannot reward manipulation and opportunism. Thomas, my son, you have carried burdens in silence that would have crushed others. You've managed the company through economic downturns, technological revolutions, and personal sacrifices that few will ever understand. Your decision to work behind the scenes, rather than seek public recognition, speaks to a character that values substance over appearance. Maxwell Technologies needs your steady hand and clear vision, now more than ever. To anyone else reading this, appearances can be deceiving. My daughter has masterfully crafted a public image of devotion, while my son's quiet dedication has often been misinterpreted as coldness or indifference. Nothing could be further from the truth. I make these statements not to punish Olivia, but to protect Thomas and the company we've built together. The division of my estate reflects not just my love, which has always been equal for both my children, but my assessment of who has earned the right to lead Maxwell Technologies into the future. With eternal love and the hope for eventual reconciliation, Eleanor Maxwell. As Judge Williams finished reading, a profound silence fell over the courtroom. Olivia stared straight ahead, her carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of her mother's words. Thomas closed his eyes briefly. The vindication he had sought now tinged with the public exposure of family matters his private nature would have preferred to keep confidential. Victoria Lang was the first to recover. Your Honor, we contest the validity of this document. The timing of its discovery is suspicious at best, and the contents clearly contradict Mrs. Maxwell's known wishes, as expressed to multiple witnesses. Judge Williams cut her off. Ms. Lang, the testament has been verified by Mrs. Maxwell's personal attorney and the notary who witnessed its signing. Furthermore, I have received affidavits from Mrs. Maxwell's financial advisors confirming the pattern of support described in her letter. He looked directly at Olivia. Unless you have evidence of forgery or coercion, this testament stands. Victoria conferred hurriedly with Olivia, who shook her head sharply before rising to her feet. This is absurd, Olivia declared, her voice strained. My mother would never have written such things about me. Thomas must have influenced her somehow, taken advantage of her condition. Ms. Bennet, Judge Williams interrupted firmly, these are serious allegations without supporting evidence. I advise you to consider carefully before continuing. Harrison Brooks stood. Your Honor, in light of the authenticated testament, we move for immediate dismissal of Ms. Bennet's claims and enforcement of Mrs. Maxwell's clearly stated wishes. Judge Williams nodded. The motion is granted. This court recognizes Eleanor Maxwell's testament as legally binding. Thomas Maxwell is hereby confirmed as the controlling shareholder of Maxwell Technologies and appointed CEO as per his mother's explicit instructions. He banged his gavel decisively. Court is adjourned. The gallery erupted in a frenzy of activity as reporters rushed to file stories and spectators buzzed with excitement. Thomas turned to Harrison, relief evident on his face. It's over. Harrison nodded. Justice prevailed thanks to that young girl. Across the aisle, Olivia gathered her belongings with trembling hands, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Victoria Lang spoke urgently about potential appeals, but Olivia seemed beyond hearing. The carefully crafted image she had maintained for weeks had been shattered in minutes, replaced by her mother's damning assessment of her character. As the courtroom began to empty, Lily and Rosa remained in their seats, unsure what to do next. Thomas approached them hesitantly. Mrs. Rodriguez, he said, addressing Rosa first out of respect. I understand you worked for my mother for many years. Rosa nodded. Yes, Mr. Maxwell, she was a kind employer. Thomas turned to Lily. And you found something that everyone else missed. Something that changed everything. He extended his hand. I owe you my gratitude. Lily shook his hand solemnly. I just thought it was the right thing to do. The right thing is often the hardest, Thomas replied. Something my mother understood well. He hesitated before adding, I'd like to do something to thank you both. Perhaps we could discuss it over lunch. Before Rosa could respond, a commotion near the courtroom doors drew everyone's attention. Olivia had stopped abruptly, turning back to face Thomas and the Rodriguez family. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the rage and humiliation contorting her features. Are you happy now? She demanded, striding toward Thomas. Everything I've built, my reputation, my life, all destroyed because of some nosy kid and a letter that conveniently appeared at the last minute. Thomas stepped protectively in front of Lily and Rosa. Olivia, this isn't the place. Where is the place, Thomas? Behind closed doors where you can manipulate the narrative, just like you manipulated Mother. Olivia's voice rose hysterically. You think you've won, but this isn't over. I'll appeal, I'll contest, I'll make sure everyone knows... Knows what, Olivia? Thomas interrupted quietly. The truth is already out. It's time to accept it and move forward. For a moment it seemed Olivia might continue her tirade. Then something in her posture changed. Her shoulders slumped slightly, and behind the anger in her eyes a flicker of resignation appeared. Without another word she turned and walked out of the courtroom, Victoria Lang hurrying after her. In the sudden quiet that followed, Martin Schaefer approached with a small smile. Well, that was quite a dramatic conclusion. Lily, it seems you've not only uncovered a hidden testament, but also changed the course of San Francisco business history. Lily shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. I was just returning some papers for my grandmother. Martin laughed. Sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest actions. He turned to Thomas. Mr. Maxwell, I'd like to request an exclusive interview about your plans for the company now that the inheritance dispute is settled. Thomas considered the request. Perhaps in a few days, Mr. Schaefer. Right now I have more important matters to attend to. He looked back at Lily and Rosa. About that lunch? Rosa smiled tentatively. "We would be honored, Mr. Maxwell." As they left the courtroom together, the billionaire heir, the veteran housekeeper, and the young girl who had changed everything, reporters called out questions and cameras flashed. But for Lily, the most important thing wasn't the excitement or attention. It was the knowledge that she had helped bring the truth to light when it mattered most. Chapter 5: Aftermath. The private dining room at Aquarello, one of San Francisco's most exclusive restaurants, felt worlds away from Lily's usual surroundings. Crystal glasses caught the afternoon light, white tablecloths gleamed immaculately, and servers moved with practiced precision. Lily sat stiffly in her chair, hyper-aware of her worn jeans and simple sweater. "Please, order anything you'd like," Thomas encouraged, noticing her hesitation as she studied the menu with its unfamiliar Italian terms and absence of prices. Rosa gently guided her granddaughter. "Perhaps the pasta, Misha. You always enjoy that." Thomas Maxwell had changed since the courtroom. The weight of public scrutiny had visibly lifted from his shoulders, and though still reserved, he spoke with quiet warmth as he answered Lily's curious questions about his work. "Maxwell Technologies began as a software company," he explained, "but under my leadership, we've expanded into renewable energy solutions and medical technology. My mother believed that wealth created responsibility, a duty to solve problems that affect everyone. Is that why she gave so much money to charity?" Lily asked, remembering the news stories about Eleanor's philanthropy. Thomas nodded. "She believed in using our resources to create opportunities for others." He looked thoughtfully at Lily. "Which brings me to something I'd like to discuss with you both." He placed a folder on the table. "Mrs. Rodriguez, my mother often spoke highly of your dedication and discretion. I understand your work schedule has been reduced due to health concerns." Rosa nodded, surprised that he knew this detail. "My arthritis makes some tasks difficult now. I'd like to offer you a position as household manager for the Maxwell estate," Thomas said. "The role would involve overseeing the staff rather than performing physical labor yourself. The compensation would be substantial, and it includes health insurance and retirement benefits." Rosa's eyes widened. "Mr. Maxwell, I don't know what to say." "You don't need to decide immediately," Thomas assured her. "But there's more." He turned to Lily. "My mother established a scholarship foundation for promising students. I'd like to ensure you have access to the best educational opportunities, regardless of financial constraints." Lily stared at him, speechless. "Your actions showed remarkable character and integrity," Thomas continued. "Those are qualities Eleanor valued above all else. The scholarship would cover your education through college, provided you maintain good academic standing." Rosa reached for her water glass, her hand trembling slightly. "This is too generous, Mr. Maxwell." "Not at all. You both helped restore my mother's true wishes." "This isn't charity. It's an investment in Lily's potential and recognition of your years of service." Thomas smiled slightly. "Besides, I suspect Eleanor would have done the same." As they finished their meal, discussing details of the opportunities Thomas had presented, none of them noticed the lone figure seated at the restaurant's bar, nursing a martini while watching their interaction through the partially open door of the private dining room. Olivia Maxwell Bennett had spent the past 24 hours cycling through rage, humiliation, and finally a cold calculation. The public unveiling of her mother's testament and personal letter had done catastrophic damage to her social standing. Friends weren't returning calls, board positions at prestigious charities were suddenly in jeopardy, and her social media accounts had been flooded with critical comments. She took another sip of her drink, watching Thomas interact with the Rodriguez family. Even now, when he had everything, the company, the majority of the fortune, public sympathy, he was extending generosity to the very people who had caused her downfall. The contrast to her own behavior made her position even more precarious. Victoria Lang had advised accepting the testament's terms and focusing on rebuilding her image. "Fighting this will only extend the negative publicity," the attorney had warned. "Take the 40%, it's still hundreds of millions of dollars, and craft a redemption narrative." But Olivia couldn't accept defeat so easily. There had to be a way to regain control, to shift the narrative back in her favor. And watching Thomas with Lily Rodriguez, a plan began to form. After lunch, Thomas had his driver take Rosa and Lily home to the Mission District. As they approached their apartment building, Rosa turned to her granddaughter. "Lily, what Mr. Maxwell is offering could change your life. But I want you to understand something important." She took Lily's hands in hers. "Your worth isn't defined by scholarships or wealthy benefactors. What you did, standing up for truth when it would have been easier to stay silent, that's what makes me proud." Lily nodded, still processing the day's events. "Do you think I should accept the scholarship?" "Absolutely," Rosa said firmly. "Opportunities like this don't come twice. But never forget where you came from, who you are." As they entered their small apartment, Lily felt a strange disconnect. The cramped rooms and worn furniture had always been home, but now they seemed temporary, a stage she might soon leave behind. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. Across town, Thomas entered Eleanor's office at Maxwell Technologies headquarters for the first time since the trial began. Rebecca Porter was waiting for him, a stack of reports prepared for his review. "The board is unanimously supportive," she informed him. "Your mother's letter removed any doubts about her intentions." Thomas nodded, running his fingers along the edge of Eleanor's desk. "And Olivia?" Rebecca hesitated. "She's requested access to her trust fund immediately. The financial team is processing it, but—" She paused. "There are concerns about her state of mind. The press is calling constantly for her response to the testament." "Has she made any public statements?" "So as not yet. Victoria Lang has apparently advised against it until they develop a strategy." Thomas sighed, settling into his mother's chair. It felt both right and strange to be there. "Have security increase monitoring at all properties. I don't anticipate Olivia doing anything rash, but it's better to be prepared." Rebecca nodded and left him to review the reports. Thomas opened the top folder, a summary of Maxwell Technologies' current projects, but found his thoughts returning to the Rodriguez family. Helping them felt like something his mother would have approved of, a small step toward honoring her legacy of quiet generosity. His phone buzzed with an incoming call from Harrison Brooks. "I've just received a concerning update," the attorney said without preamble. "Olivia's legal team has filed a petition claiming undue influence and questioning Eleanor's mental capacity when the testament was executed." Thomas leaned back in his chair, disappointed but not surprised. "On what grounds?" "They're citing Eleanor's medication regimen during her illness and suggesting it may have affected her judgment. They've also requested all of Eleanor's medical records from the last year of her life." "That's a desperate move," Thomas observed. "Dr. Chen testified that Mother was mentally sharp until the end." "Agreed, but it will delay the final distribution of assets and keep the story in the media. I suspect that's Olivia's real goal, to create enough doubt to salvage her reputation." After ending the call, Thomas stood at the window overlooking San Francisco Bay. The inheritance battle might be legally resolved, but Olivia clearly wasn't ready to concede. The coming weeks would require careful navigation. Meanwhile, Martin Schaefer was putting the finishing touches on his feature article about the Maxwell case for the Sunday edition of the Chronicle. His editor had given him unprecedented space for what they were calling the testament how a schoolgirl changed the fate of a billion-dollar empire. Martin's phone rang, an unknown number. "Mr. Schaefer, this is Olivia Maxwell Bennett. I believe it's time we spoke." Martin straightened in his chair, instantly alert. "Miss Bennett, I've been hoping to include your perspective in my article." "That's precisely why I'm calling," Olivia replied, her voice controlled and pleasant. "There are aspects of this situation that haven't been fully explored. I'd like to offer you an exclusive interview." Martin's journalistic instincts hummed with both opportunity and caution. "I'm certainly interested. When would you like to meet?" "Tonight, if possible, at my home in Pacific Heights." 7 o'clock? After hanging up, Martin stared thoughtfully at his half-completed article. An exclusive interview with Olivia would be a significant coup. But why now? What was her angle? As evening fell over San Francisco, Lily sat at her small desk, attempting to focus on homework. The events of the past 2 days kept intruding on her concentration. Her phone buzzed with messages from classmates who had seen her on the news, asking for details about the Maxwell family and her role in the case. A knock at the apartment door drew her attention. Rosa answered it, and Lily heard a woman's voice, cultured, friendly, vaguely familiar. "Mrs. Rodriguez." I'm Patricia Wells from the Maxwell Scholarship Foundation. I apologize for coming without an appointment, but I was hoping to speak with you and Lily about finalizing her enrollment paperwork. Lily emerged from her room to see a well-dressed woman in her 40s, blonde hair pulled back in an elegant chignon, holding a portfolio case. Mr. Maxwell mentioned he'd spoken with you about the scholarship, the woman continued smoothly. I understand this is all happening quickly, but there's a spot available at Westridge Academy that we'd like to secure for Lily before someone else claims it. Rosa looked uncertain. Mr. Maxwell didn't mention sending someone today. The woman smiled apologetically. He's been quite busy with the transition at Maxwell Technologies. I'm sure he meant to call ahead. If this is a bad time, I can come back tomorrow, but the school needs these forms by noon. Rosa hesitated, then gestured for the woman to enter. Please come in. We can at least look at the paperwork. Lily watched as the visitor settled gracefully on their worn sofa, opening her portfolio to reveal official-looking documents with the Maxwell Foundation letterhead. Lily, why don't you sit with us? The woman suggested warmly. These decisions are about your future, after all. Something about the woman's overly familiar tone made Lily uneasy, but she couldn't identify why. She sat beside her grandmother as Patricia began explaining the scholarship terms, which matched what Thomas had described at lunch. We'll need your social security number for the scholarship application, Patricia explained, pushing a form toward Lily. And your birth certificate information. Do you have that available? Rosa frowned slightly. Wouldn't Mr. Maxwell's lawyers handle these details? It seems unusual to ask for such personal information in our home. Oh, this is standard procedure, Patricia assured her smoothly. The foundation is separate from Mr. Maxwell's personal legal team. But if you're uncomfortable, we can certainly wait and confirm with him directly. She reached for her phone as if to call Thomas, then paused. Although, as I mentioned, the spot at Westridge won't remain open indefinitely. It's one of the most prestigious schools in the city. Lily, who had been quiet throughout the exchange, suddenly recognized the woman's perfume, the same distinctive scent she had noticed on Olivia Maxwell Bennett in the courtroom. You're not from the foundation, are you? Lily said quietly. The woman's smile faltered almost imperceptibly. I'm sorry? Your perfume. It's the same as Ms. Maxwell Bennett's. The woman's expression changed, hardening for just a moment before she recovered her composure. What an unusual observation. I assure you I am exactly who I say I am. But Rosa was already rising, her posture protective. I think it would be best if you left now. We'll speak directly with Mr. Maxwell about the scholarship. Patricia closed her portfolio with deliberate calm. You're making a mistake. This opportunity won't come again if you reject it now. We'll take that chance, Rosa replied firmly, moving toward the door. The woman stood, all pretense of warmth vanishing. You should be careful about aligning yourselves too closely with Thomas Maxwell. Olivia Bennett has powerful friends, and this situation is far from resolved. As the door closed behind her, Rosa immediately called the number Thomas had given them. When he answered, she quickly explained what had happened. Stay where you are, Thomas instructed, his voice tense. I'm sending security to your building immediately. That woman was not from the foundation. After hanging up, Rosa locked the door and pulled the curtains closed. Lily sat at the kitchen table trying to process what had just happened. Was that really Olivia? She asked. No, Mija. But someone working for her, certainly. Rosa squeezed Lily's shoulder reassuringly. Don't worry, Mr. Maxwell will make sure we're safe. Lily nodded, but a chill had settled over her. The Maxwell inheritance battle had seemed like something from a movie. Dramatic, but ultimately disconnected from her real life. Now, however, the consequences had followed her home, bringing with them a sense of danger she had never experienced before. Across town, Martin Schaefer arrived at Olivia's Pacific Heights mansion, notebook in hand. The house was lit up beautifully, and a housekeeper led him to an elegantly appointed sitting room where Olivia waited, composed and stylish in a silk blouse and tailored pants. Mr. Schaefer, thank you for coming on such short notice, she greeted him, gesturing toward a comfortable chair. Would you like a drink before we begin? Martin declined politely, eager to understand what Olivia hoped to accomplish with this interview. As he set up his recorder, He couldn't help but notice that despite her polished appearance, there was a barely perceptible tension in her movements, a brittleness to her smile. "Miss Bennet, you've been silent since the reading of your mother's testament. What prompted you to speak now?" Olivia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Truth is rarely as simple as it first appears. Mr. Schaefer, I believe the public deserves to hear all sides of this story, especially when a child has been unwittingly drawn into a complex family matter. Something," in her tone when she mentioned Lily, sent a warning signal through Martin's mind. Whatever Olivia's agenda was, he suspected Lily Rodriguez might be at the center of, and that realization made him deeply uneasy. Chapter 6. New Challenges. Thomas Maxwell's private security team arrived at the Rodriguez apartment within 20 minutes. The lead officer, a former police detective named Michael Reeves, took detailed notes as Rosa and Lily described their visitor. "She was definitely trying to gather personal information," Reeves concluded, studying the business card Patricia Wells had left behind. "There's no Patricia Wells associated with any Maxwell Foundation or company. The phone number goes to a disposable cell." Thomas paced the small living room, uncharacteristically agitated. This is exactly the kind of underhanded tactic Olivia would employ. First, try to challenge the testament legally, and when that doesn't work immediately, target the person who brought it to light. He turned to Rosa and Lily. "I apologize for bringing this trouble to your doorstep. I never imagined Olivia would stoop to involving you further." Rosa sat stoically, her arm around Lily's shoulders. "What happens now, Mr. Maxwell? For tonight, I'd like to move you to a secure location, a hotel where my security team can ensure your safety. Tomorrow we can discuss more permanent arrangements." Thomas hesitated, clearly uncomfortable asking more of them. "I understand this is disruptive, but until we know exactly what Olivia is planning, we'll go," Rosa decided, looking at Lily for confirmation. "Just for tonight." As they packed overnight bags, Lily wondered how her life had changed so dramatically in just a few days. From anonymous schoolgirl to key figure in a billionaire family drama, it felt surreal, like something from one of her favorite novels. Across the city in Pacific Heights, Martin Schaefer's interview with Olivia Maxwell Bennet was taking an unexpected turn. The narrative presented in court was simplistic at best, deliberately misleading at worst, Olivia was saying. Her voice controlled despite the bitterness underlying her words. "My mother was a complex woman, whose relationships evolved over time. Thomas may have been her golden child in business matters, but he was notably absent during her illness." Martin maintained a neutral expression despite his skepticism. "The testament and personal letter seemed quite clear regarding your mother's wishes." Olivia's smile tightened. "Documents can be influenced, Mr. Schaefer. My mother's medication regimen in her final months was extensive. Her doctors have confirmed it could affect judgment and memory. Are you suggesting Thomas somehow manipulated your mother into changing her testament?" "I'm suggesting that circumstances surrounding the creation of that document deserve closer scrutiny." Olivia leaned forward slightly. "And then there's the matter of how it was discovered. Don't you find it curious that a random child happened to find a hidden safe that professional estate managers missed?" Martin's journalistic instincts sharpened. "What are you implying about Lily Rodriguez?" "Nothing definitive. But consider the connections. Her grandmother worked in our home for years. Who's to say what conversations she might have overheard? What information she might have shared with her granddaughter?" Olivia waved a hand dismissively. "Children are impressionable, easily influenced by adults with their own agendas. Are you accusing Rosa Rodriguez of collusion with Thomas?" "I'm raising reasonable questions that haven't been addressed." Olivia's tone was measured, reasonable, the voice of someone merely seeking truth. Thomas was desperate as the trial progressed. The evidence was overwhelmingly in my favor. And suddenly this convenient discovery by a child with connections to our household? Martin made notes, keeping his expression neutral despite his growing concern. Olivia was clearly attempting to create a new narrative, one that cast doubt on Lily's discovery and implied conspiracy. "I understand you filed a petition questioning your mother's mental capacity when the testament was executed," Martin said. "A necessary legal step to ensure all facts are considered." Olivia sipped her wine. "But there are other avenues worth exploring. For instance, Did you know that shortly after my mother's funeral, several valuable items disappeared from the house? Family jewelry, small antiques, things that wouldn't be immediately noticed but hold significant value. Martin's pen paused above his notebook. Are you suggesting theft? I'm stating facts. Items disappeared. Rosa Rodriguez had access to the house. Now her granddaughter miraculously discovers a hidden testament that benefits my brother. Olivia shrugged elegantly. Draw your own conclusions. By the time Martin left Olivia's mansion, night had fallen completely over San Francisco. He sat in his car for several minutes, reviewing his notes and considering the implications of the interview. Olivia was clearly orchestrating a character assassination of both the Rodriguez family and her brother, a desperate but potentially effective strategy to rehabilitate her public image. The question was, how much of this should he include in his article? Reporting Olivia's claims would give them legitimacy, potentially harming innocent people. But omitting them entirely wasn't journalistic integrity. He started his car, deciding he needed to speak with Thomas Maxwell before publishing anything. At the Four Seasons Hotel, Lily stood at the window of a luxurious suite, gazing out at the city lights spread below. The room was bigger than their entire apartment, with plush furnishings and amenities she'd only seen in movies. Rosa emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a hotel robe. Can you believe this place, Mija? The towels are so thick you could use them as blankets. Lily smiled, but her mind was elsewhere. Abuela, do you think we did the right thing? Finding the testament, taking it to the court. Rosa sat beside her granddaughter on the window seat. The right thing isn't always the easy thing. Sometimes it brings trouble. She brushed a strand of hair from Lily's face. But yes, we did right. Mrs. Maxwell deserved to have her true wishes respected. A soft knock at the door announced the arrival of room service, a dinner Thomas had arranged for them. As they ate the finest meal either had ever experienced, Rosa studied her granddaughter thoughtfully. You know, your mother was like you at your age, always finding herself in the middle of other people's stories, always standing up for what she believed was right. It was rare for Rosa to mention Lily's mother, who had passed away when Lily was just 4. The comparison warmed Lily's heart. What would she think of all this? Lily wondered. She would be proud, Rosa said firmly, but she would also tell you to be careful. Wealthy people like the Maxwells live by different rules than we do. Their problems can become dangerous for people like us. Lily nodded, understanding the warning beneath her grandmother's words. The visit from the fake foundation representative had made that clear enough. Across town at Maxwell Technologies headquarters, Thomas was working late, reviewing company documents and trying to catch up on the business developments he'd missed during the trial. Rebecca Porter brought him coffee and a stack of messages. Martin Schaefer called twice, she reported. He says it's urgent, something about his interview with Olivia. Thomas frowned. Did he say what she told him? No, but he seemed concerned. He's requesting a meeting tonight, if possible. Thomas checked his watch, nearly 10 p.m. Whatever Martin had learned from Olivia must be significant for such an urgent request. Tell him I can see him in 30 minutes. When Martin arrived, the strain on his face immediately confirmed Thomas's suspicions that the interview with Olivia had yielded troubling information. She's launched a smear campaign, Martin said without preamble, settling into a chair across from Thomas. Not just against you, which was expected, but against the Rodriguez family. She's implying conspiracy, theft, possibly even that you paid them to find the testament. Thomas closed his eyes briefly, a wave of cold anger washing over him. She's targeting a child and an elderly housekeeper to salvage her reputation. It gets worse, Martin continued. She claims items went missing from the house after your mother's funeral, suggesting Rosa may have stolen them. She's building a narrative that could seriously damage their reputations. None of that is true, Thomas said firmly. My mother kept meticulous inventory of her valuables. Nothing was reported missing. Martin nodded. I suspected as much. But here's my dilemma. As a journalist, I need to report on Olivia's claims, but I don't want to amplify false accusations against innocent people. Thomas considered the situation. What if you had access to Eleanor's complete household inventory, and statements from the estate managers, confirming nothing was missing? That would provide necessary context to Olivia's claims. Martin leaned forward. But Thomas, Olivia seems determined to destroy the Rodriguez family's credibility. This won't end with my article. I'm aware, Thomas replied grimly. They're at the Four Seasons tonight with security. Tomorrow I'll offer to relocate them somewhere Olivia can't reach them, perhaps the company apartment in Nob Hill. Martin made notes, then looked up with a troubled expression. There's something else. Olivia mentioned she has investigators looking into Lily's background, school records, medical history, anything that might discredit her. Thomas's expression hardened. They're investigating a child. She's truly lost all perspective. After Martin left, Thomas called Michael Reeves. Double the security detail at the hotel. And I want a complete background check on everyone currently employed at Olivia's residence. If she sent someone to impersonate a Foundation representative once, she might try something similar again. The following morning, San Francisco awoke to Martin Schaefer's article in the Chronicle. The headline was measured. Maxwell inheritance. Both sides claim manipulation as new legal challenges emerge. The article presented Olivia's claims but contextualized them with statements from the Maxwell estate managers confirming no items were missing from Eleanor's household inventory. Martin had also included a statement from Thomas defending the Rodriguez family's integrity and expressing concern about attempts to intimidate them. The public reaction was mixed, with some social media users beginning to question Lily's discovery, while others condemned Olivia for targeting a child. The story that had seemed so clear-cut just days before was becoming muddied, exactly as Olivia had intended. At the Four Seasons, Lily scrolled through comments on news sites, her stomach tightening as she read accusations that she was either Thomas's unwitting pawn or actively involved in a scheme to disinherit Olivia. Don't read those, Rosa said firmly, taking Lily's phone. People who don't know us have no right to judge us. A knock at the door announced Thomas's arrival. He entered looking tired but determined, accompanied by Michael Reeves. I apologize for the early hour, Thomas began, but we need to discuss next steps. Olivia's actions suggest she's willing to go to extreme lengths to discredit you both. Rosa nodded solemnly. We saw the newspaper. I have a proposal, Thomas continued. Maxwell Technologies maintains a corporate apartment in Nob Hill for visiting executives. It's secure, comfortable, and unknown to Olivia. I'd like to offer it to you both until this situation stabilizes. Rosa hesitated. And how long might that be, Mr. Maxwell? We have a life, humble as it is. Lily has school. I have my remaining clients. I understand your concerns, Thomas assured her. The arrangement would be temporary, a few weeks at most. During that time, I can arrange for Lily to continue her education remotely. And my foundation will compensate you for any lost income. Mrs. Rodriguez, he turned to Lily, I know this is disruptive, and I'm truly sorry for bringing this trouble into your lives. But your safety is paramount. Lily looked at her grandmother, then back at Thomas. What about the scholarship, the school you mentioned? The offer stands, regardless of what happens with Olivia's challenges. But given the circumstances, it might be wise to delay your enrollment until the situation calms. Thomas smiled slightly. The school will still be there when this is resolved. Rosa took Lily's hand. Perhaps a few weeks in a different place would be good for us, Mija. Like a vacation. Lily nodded slowly, though the word vacation hardly seemed to fit their circumstances. This wasn't an adventure she had chosen. It was a necessary retreat from a situation that had spiraled beyond anyone's control. As they packed their few belongings, Lily gazed out at the San Francisco skyline one more time. Somewhere out there, Olivia Maxwell Bennett was plotting her next move, determined to reclaim her reputation and status regardless of who got hurt in the process. Meanwhile, in her Pacific Heights mansion, Olivia reviewed a report from the private investigator she had hired to look into the Rodriguez family. Nothing useful on the grandmother, the investigator explained over the phone. Clean record, good reputation with employers. The girl is a straight-A student, no disciplinary issues. Olivia frowned. There must be something we can use. Financial problems, medical issues, family drama. There is one thing, the investigator said after a brief hesitation. The girl's mother, Rosa's daughter, had a troubled history. Substance abuse issues, some minor legal problems. She's been gone since the girl was 4. Gone? You mean she died? No, she left. Whereabouts unknown. The grandmother has had sole custody since then. Olivia straightened, her mind racing with possibilities. Find her, the mother, whatever it takes. That could be expensive and time-consuming, Miss Bennett. We don't even have a current name. She might have remarried. I don't care what it costs, Olivia snapped. Find her. If she's as troubled as you suggest, she might be very interested to learn that her daughter is now connected to one of the wealthiest families in California. As she hung up, Olivia felt a surge of renewed purpose. Thomas might have won the first round of their battle, but she was far from defeated. If she couldn't reclaim the company through legal means, she would ensure that Thomas's victory was tainted, his judgment questioned, his reputation damaged. And Lily Rodriguez, the girl who had unwittingly changed everything, would learn that actions had consequences, especially when they interfered with the plans of people like Olivia Maxwell Bennett. Across the city, as the Rodriguez family settled into the corporate apartment in Nob Hill, Lily stood at yet another window, gazing out at yet another view of San Francisco. The apartment was beautiful, all sleek modern furnishings and high-tech amenities, but it felt temporary, transient. It will be okay, mija, Rosa said, joining her at the window. This will pass and we will return to our normal lives. Lily nodded, but a part of her wondered if that was true. Normal seemed very far away now, and something told her that Olivia Maxwell Bennett wasn't finished with them yet, that the worst was still to come. Chapter Fee 7 Truth Prevails. 2 weeks passed in a strange limbo for Lily and Rosa. The corporate apartment in Nob Hill was luxurious, secure and utterly isolating. Lily attended classes virtually, submitting assignments online and chatting with friends through video calls. But the distance from her normal life weighed heavily. Each day brought news of Olivia's escalating campaign. Her legal team had filed multiple motions challenging the testament's validity. Her carefully crafted interviews portrayed her as the victim of manipulation, first by her mother, then by her brother, and finally by circumstances surrounding the mysterious discovery of the hidden document. Public opinion, initially solidly in Thomas's favor, began to fracture. Social media buzzed with conspiracy theories, some suggesting Lily had been coached or paid to find the testament. Others speculated that Thomas had planted the document himself and used the child as an unwitting accomplice. On a rainy Wednesday morning, Lily sat at the dining table, struggling to concentrate on her algebra homework. Rosa was in the kitchen preparing lunch when a call came through on the secure phone Thomas had provided. Mrs. Rodriguez? This is Michael Reeves. Is Lily with you? Rosa confirmed that her granddaughter was nearby. Good. Stay inside and don't answer the door for anyone. We've received information that a woman claiming to be from Child Protective Services may attempt to make contact. She's not legitimate. Rosa's hand tightened on the phone. What do they want with Lily? We believe it's another attempt to gather information or possibly intimidate you both. Security has been increased in the building. Mr. Maxwell is on his way to explain in person. After hanging up, Rosa joined Lily at the table, her expression troubled. Mia, Mr. Maxwell is coming to see us. There may be more complications. Lily set down her pencil, a heaviness settling in her chest. Because of Miss Bennett? Rosa nodded, taking Lily's hand. She seems determined to discredit what you found. But remember, we did nothing wrong. The truth is on our side. When Thomas arrived an hour later, the strain of recent weeks was evident in the shadows beneath his eyes and the tension in his shoulders. He declined Rosa's offer of coffee. Too preoccupied to observe social niceties, my security team intercepted communications suggesting Olivia has hired someone to impersonate a child welfare officer, he explained. The apparent goal was to interview Lily without legal representation present, potentially manipulating her words to suggest inconsistencies in her story. Rosa's face paled. She would go that far? Involving child services? Not the actual agency, just someone pretending to be from there. Thomas ran a hand through his hair, a rare display of frustration breaking through his controlled demeanor. Olivia has always been manipulative, but this crosses lines I never thought she would. What happens next? Lily asked quietly. Thomas looked at her with genuine regret. My attorneys believe the best course of action is to have you both formally deposed. Your testimonies recorded under oath with legal representation present. Once that's done, Olivia will have no legitimate reason to seek further contact. Will we have to go to court again? Rosa asked. No, the deposition can take place here with only the necessary legal personnel present. Thomas hesitated before adding, There's something else you should know. My investigators have learned that Olivia has hired people to locate Lily's mother. The room fell silent. Lily felt her grandmother's hand tighten around hers. My mother left when I was 4, Lily said finally. She doesn't have any rights anymore. Abuela is my legal guardian. Correct, Thomas confirmed. Olivia can't change your custody situation, but she might believe that contacting your mother could create emotional distress or pressure that would serve her purposes. Rosa stood, indignation straightening her spine despite her arthritis. Elena made her choice years ago. She has no place in Lily's life now. Thomas nodded. I understand. And legally, you're absolutely right. But I wanted you to be prepared in case Olivia succeeds in locating her. After Thomas left, Rosa and Lily sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Lily spoke. Would she really try to bring my mother into this? Rosa sighed deeply. People like Olivia Bennett see others only as tools to get what they want. If she thinks your mother could help her cause, yes, she would use her without hesitation. But why? The testament was real. The judge confirmed it. This isn't about the testament anymore, Mija. It's about pride and public image. Ms. Bennett can't accept that she was exposed, that people now see her as manipulative and greedy. Rosa squeezed Lily's shoulder gently. Sometimes when powerful people are hurt, they want others to hurt as well. The following day, preparations began for the formal depositions. Thomas sent his personal attorney, Harrison Brooks, to meet with Rosa and Lily, explaining the process and helping them prepare for the types of questions they might face. Just tell the truth. Exactly as you remember it, Harrison advised Lily. Don't worry about whether your answers help or hurt anyone's case. Your only obligation is to be honest. Lily nodded, though the prospect of another legal proceeding filled her with anxiety. What if I don't remember something correctly? It all happened so fast. That's perfectly fine, Harrison assured her. If you don't remember, simply say so. It's much better to admit uncertainty than to guess. As they reviewed the timeline of events surrounding the discovery of the testament, Lily's phone buzzed with a text message from her best friend Zoe. OMG, have you seen this? Followed by a link to a local news site. Lily clicked the link and her blood ran cold. The headline read, Maxwell inheritance case takes new turn. Mother of key witness found. The article reported that Elena Rodriguez, Lily's long-absent mother, had been located in Los Angeles and had given an exclusive interview to a tabloid newspaper. According to the brief excerpt, Eleanor claimed she had important information about her daughter's involvement in the Maxwell case. Rosa read the article over Lily's shoulder, her expression hardening. 13 years, not a phone call, not a birthday card. And now she emerges to talk to tabloids. Harrison Brooks immediately called Thomas, who arrived at the apartment within the hour, accompanied by Martin Schaefer. I've seen the article, Thomas said grimly. My team is trying to obtain the full interview before it's published tomorrow. Martin added, my sources say Olivia's people found Elena in a rehabilitation facility in Los Angeles 2 days ago. They paid for her release and set her up in a hotel. Lily sat silently, trying to process this development. Her mother, a woman who existed primarily in a handful of faded photographs and Rosa's reluctant stories, was suddenly a factor in the Maxwell inheritance drama. It seemed surreal, disconnected from the reality Lily had known her entire life. What could she possibly say about me? Lily finally asked. She doesn't even know me. That's precisely what makes this so insidious, Thomas replied. She can make claims that would be difficult for you to definitively refute, given your age when she left. Rosa's voice was steel. Whatever Eleanor says, it won't change the facts. Lily found the testament exactly as she described. The notary confirmed its authenticity. This is just another desperate tactic. Martin Schaefer, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly straightened. What if we get ahead of this? Instead of waiting for Elena's interview to create another news cycle, what if Lily tells her story directly, in her own words? All eyes turned to him. "I'm not suggesting putting Lily on camera," Martin clarified quickly. "But a written statement, carefully prepared with legal guidance, could defuse whatever claims Elena might make." Thomas considered this. It would have to be handled delicately. Lily is a minor and her privacy must be protected. "I'll do it," Lily said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "I want to tell what really happened. I'm tired of hiding while Ms. Bennet keeps spreading lies." Rosa looked concerned. "Mija, are you sure? Once your words are published, you can't take them back." "I'm sure, Abuela. I found Mrs. Maxwell's testament because it was the right thing to do. I didn't know what would happen, but I'm not sorry." Lily's voice grew stronger as she spoke. "If my mother wants to lie about me for money, let her. People will know the truth." The determination in the young girl's face silenced further objections. Martin nodded approvingly. "With your permission, Mrs. Rodriguez, I'd like to work with Lily to prepare a statement. Mr. Brooks can review it to ensure there's nothing legally problematic." As the adults discussed logistics, Lily moved to the window, watching raindrops trace patterns on the glass. The world outside seemed very far away, yet paradoxically, she had never felt more exposed to its scrutiny. Her thoughts drifted to Eleanor Maxwell, a woman she had never met but whose life had become inexplicably intertwined with her own. What would Eleanor think of all this drama surrounding her final wishes? The next morning, Eleanor Rodriguez's interview hit the newsstands and online platforms. As Thomas's team had feared, it contained inflammatory claims that Lily had been coached by Thomas's people to find the testament, that Rosa had been promised financial rewards for her granddaughter's cooperation, that Lily had always been an imaginative child who struggled to separate fantasy from reality. The tabloid presented Eleanor as a concerned mother who had maintained contact with her daughter despite challenging circumstances, a claim so blatantly false that Lily actually laughed when she read it. "She doesn't even know what grade I'm in," she remarked to Rosa, who was reading the article with a thunderous expression. "She says I have a history of making up stories for attention, but she hasn't seen me since I was 4. Martin Schaefer arrived shortly after breakfast, bringing printouts of the interview and a determined energy. "This is actually perfect," he announced, surprising everyone. "Elena's claims are so easily disproven that they undermine Olivia's entire strategy." He turned to Lily. "Are you still willing to make a statement?" Lily nodded firmly. "Good, let's work on it together." For the next 2 hours, Lily carefully recounted every detail of finding the testament, while Martin took notes and occasionally asked clarifying questions. Harrison Brooks observed quietly, intervening only when the discussion approached legally sensitive areas. By early afternoon, they had crafted a clear, straightforward account of Lily's discovery. The statement was dignified and factual, avoiding direct criticism of Olivia, while firmly refuting Eleanor's claims. "What happens now?" Lily asked, as Martin prepared to leave with the finished statement. "I'll publish this in tomorrow's Chronicle, alongside documentation that contradicts your mother's claims," Martin smiled encouragingly. "The truth has power, Lily, remember that." After he left, Rosa embraced her granddaughter tightly. "I am so proud of you, Misha. Your mother was right about one thing, you are special. Just not in the way she claims." The following morning, Martin's article appeared prominently in the Chronicle. Titled in her own words, "Lily Rodriguez's account of the Maxwell Testament discovery," it presented Lily's straightforward narrative, alongside evidence that thoroughly discredited Eleanor's claims. School records showing Lily's excellent academic standing and attendance, statements from teachers describing her as honest and reliable, and most damaging to Elena's credibility, court documents showing she had legally abandoned Lily and terminated her parental rights 8 years earlier. The public response was immediate and decisive. Social media rallied around Lily, condemning both Olivia and Elena for attempting to manipulate and exploit a child. News programs featured legal experts who validated the testament's authenticity and criticized the increasingly desperate tactics being employed to challenge it. By mid-afternoon, Olivia's attorney Victoria Lang had issued a statement, distancing her client from Elena Rodriguez. Ms. Bennet had no involvement in locating or interviewing Elena Rodriguez and does not endorse any claims made in that interview. Thomas called with the news that Judge Williams had denied all of Olivia's motions, challenging the testament, and had issued a strongly worded ruling that criticized her legal team's tactics. It's essentially over, Thomas explained. She can still appeal, but her attorneys are advising against it. The public backlash has been too severe. Lily felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Does that mean we can go home soon? Yes, though I'd recommend waiting another day or two until things settle completely. Thomas paused before adding, and Lily, the scholarship offer stands, whenever you're ready. That evening, as Rosa prepared dinner, Lily received an unexpected call from Martin Schaefer. I thought you'd want to know. Elena Rodriguez has left Los Angeles. Apparently, the hotel bill Olivia's people were covering suddenly stopped being paid. Martin's voice held a note of satisfaction. And there's more. Rebecca Porter just called me. Olivia has agreed to a private settlement with Thomas. She's taking the 40% inheritance as specified in the testament and dropping all challenges. In exchange, Thomas won't pursue legal action regarding her tactics during this dispute. So it's really over? Lily asked, hardly daring to believe it. It appears so. Olivia's scheduled a press conference for tomorrow, likely to announce she's accepting the settlement and moving on. Her publicity team is already crafting a redemption narrative. After hanging up, Lily shared the news with Rosa, who received it with cautious optimism. Let's see what tomorrow brings before we celebrate, she advised wisely. The next day, Olivia appeared on the steps of her Pacific Heights mansion, perfectly styled in a conservative suit, her expression appropriately solemn. Cameras flashed as she read a prepared statement. After much reflection and consultation with my advisors, I have decided to accept the terms of my mother's testament. While I continue to believe that certain circumstances surrounding its discovery were unusual, I acknowledge that the document itself is authentic and represents my mother's wishes. She paused, her practiced humility almost convincing. Recent events have distracted from what matters most, honoring Eleanor Maxwell's legacy of innovation and philanthropy. Therefore, I am withdrawing all legal challenges and focusing instead on establishing the Olivia Bennett Foundation, which will continue my mother's charitable work. The performance was masterful, a strategic retreat disguised as a gracious concession. Most viewers would see a woman putting family harmony above personal gain, not recognizing the carefully worded non-apology and subtle implication that something remained suspicious about the testament's discovery. Thomas watched the press conference from his office at Maxwell Technologies, Rebecca Porter beside him. She's good, Rebecca observed. Most people will forget the ugly tactics within a week. Thomas nodded. That's Olivia, always landing on her feet no matter how far she falls. He turned off the television, but it doesn't matter anymore. Mother's wishes will be honored, and Maxwell Technologies can move forward. And the Rodriguez family? Rebecca asked. They can return to their lives with some improvements. Thomas smiled slightly. Eleanor would have liked Lily. She had a soft spot for people with quiet courage. 2 days later, Lily and Rosa returned to their apartment in the Mission District. The modest rooms felt simultaneously strange and familiar after weeks in luxurious temporary accommodations. Neighbors welcomed them warmly, curious about their connection to the Maxwell case, but respectful of their privacy. Life began returning to normal. Rosa resumed her reduced housekeeping schedule. Lily went back to school, where she was briefly the center of attention before the next schoolyard drama took precedence. The media gradually lost interest as Olivia's redemption tour dominated society pages, and Thomas focused on expanding Maxwell Technologies. 1 month after the settlement, Thomas invited Rosa and Lily to Eleanor's mansion in Pacific Heights. The grand house felt different now, less intimidating, more welcoming, as Thomas led them through rooms filled with art and history. I wanted you both to see this place properly, not as a location in a legal drama, Thomas explained, and to thank you again for your courage. In Eleanor's study, he presented Lily with formal scholarship documents for Westridge Academy, beginning the following semester, if she chose to accept. This is a real opportunity, not charity, Thomas assured Rosa, who still seemed overwhelmed by such generosity. Eleanor established this foundation to identify promising students regardless of background. Lily more than qualifies. As they toured the house, Thomas brought them to Eleanor's bedroom, the scene of Lily's fateful discovery. The room had been preserved much as Eleanor had left it, though the wardrobe had been moved slightly, revealing the panel that had concealed the hidden safe. "I've been meaning to ask," Thomas said. "How did you notice this?" "The estate managers missed it completely." Lily studied the narrow gap thoughtfully. "I'm not sure exactly. I just saw it. Maybe because I'm smaller, or maybe because I wasn't looking for anything specific." Thomas nodded. "Mother always said the most important discoveries come when you're not searching for them." He smiled slightly. She would have appreciated the irony that her careful planning was almost undone by Olivia, only to be saved by a chance discovery. Later, as they prepared to leave, Thomas handed Lily a small wrapped package. "This is from Eleanor in a way. I found it among her personal effects, with a note suggesting it be given to someone who values truth above convenience. I think she'd want you to have it." At home, Lily unwrapped the package to find an antique compass in a polished wooden case. Inside the lid was an inscription: "Truth always finds its direction." She placed it carefully on her desk, a reminder of an unexpected journey and the power of doing what's right, even when it leads into unknown territory. 6 months later, Lily began attending Westridge Academy on her full scholarship. The transition was challenging, academically rigorous and socially complex, but she approached it with the same quiet determination that had guided her through the Maxwell inheritance drama. Olivia, Maxwell Bennett, relocated to New York, where her family name carried less baggage and her 40% inheritance still made her enormously wealthy. Her Olivia Bennett Foundation became successful enough to partially rehabilitate her image, though in San Francisco, people still remembered the ugly tactics she had employed against a child. Thomas Maxwell led Maxwell Technologies to new heights, honoring his mother's legacy through innovation and ethical business practices. He maintained contact with the Rodriguez family, serving as an informal mentor to Lily as she navigated her educational journey. Rosa continued working reduced hours, her financial situation vastly improved by Thomas's generosity and the college fund he had established for Lily. She often reflected on how a simple errand had changed their lives forever, how truth, once found, had refused to remain hidden. On the anniversary of the courtroom revelation, Martin Schaefer published a retrospective piece about the case. The article ended with a quote from Lily, who had initially been reluctant to be interviewed again, but eventually decided to share a final thought. "I didn't do anything special. I just found something that someone tried to hide, and I knew it needed to be seen. Sometimes the truth is like that, waiting for someone to notice it even when others walk right past. I'm glad I was that someone, even if it wasn't always easy afterwards. Truth matters. It always finds its way out eventually." San Francisco moved on to new dramas and scandals, as cities always do. The Maxwell inheritance case became a footnote in legal textbooks, a cautionary tale about attempted manipulation of public opinion, and an example of how justice can arrive from unexpected sources. But for Lily Rodriguez, it remained something more personal, a chapter in her life that taught her about courage, integrity, and the power of standing firm when the truth is on your side. The antique compass remained on her desk, pointing true north, reminding her daily that no matter how complicated the journey becomes, the right direction is always worth finding.